Marcus Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead as he climbed down from the massive cargo hauler he'd been repairing. The space station's maintenance bay was always too hot, the air recyclers struggling to keep up with the heat from welding torches and plasma cutters. He'd been working for 12 straight hours, but the satisfaction of bringing a dead engine back to life never got old. The Terran Maintenance Consortium paid well for skilled engineers willing to work the outer rim stations. Marcus had spent 5 years bouncing between different posts, fixing everything from life support systems to starship drives. Humans had a reputation in this part of the galaxy, they could fix anything, often with parts that had no business working together. A sharp whistle echoed through the bay. Marcus looked up to see his supervisor, Greg, waving him over. The Vortax's forearms gestured urgently, his chitinous face clicking with agitation. "Shun. Emergency repair request just came in. Priority 1. Marcus grabbed his tool case and jogged over. Priority 1 meant someone was in serious trouble, probably stranded with failing life support or a catastrophic system failure. "What's the situation?" Greg's translator unit buzzed as he switched to standard. "Unknown vessel, registry shows Zephyrian. Single occupant, life signs weak. Ship's drifting about 2 clicks from the station. Propulsion dead, life support failing." Zephyrians. Marcus had heard of them but never met one. They were supposedly one of the more advanced species in the local cluster, known for their sophisticated technology and secretive nature. Their ships rarely broke down, which made this situation unusual. "Any idea what happened?" "Negative. The pilot's not responding to communications. Could be unconscious, could be dead. Station command wants you to take a repair pod out there and see what you can do." Marcus nodded. Emergency repairs in space were dangerous, but they paid triple rates. More importantly, someone's life was on the line. 20 minutes later, Marcus was suited up and piloting a small repair pod through the void. The Zephyrian ship came into view, and he whistled softly. It was beautiful, sleek lines that seemed to flow like water, hull plating that shifted color in the starlight. But something was definitely wrong. The ship listed to one side, and several hull plates were scorched black. "Repair pod Alpha to station control. I've got visual on the target. Looks like they took some serious damage. Scorch marks suggest weapons fire. Copy, Alpha. Be careful out there." Marcus maneuvered his pod to the ship's airlock. The docking collar sealed with a soft hiss, and his scanner showed the ship still had atmosphere, though the oxygen levels were dropping fast. He cycled through the airlock and stepped into the alien vessel. The interior was as elegant as the exterior, curved walls that seemed grown rather than built, soft lighting that responded to his presence. But the acrid smell of burned electronics filled the air, and warning lights pulsed weakly throughout the corridor. Following the ship's layout, Marcus made his way toward what he assumed was the bridge. He found her there, slumped over a control console that sparked intermittently. She was definitely Zephyrian, tall and graceful, even unconscious, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer slightly. Her features were humanoid but refined, with large eyes and delicate bone structure. She wore a form-fitting flight suit that had seen better days, torn in several places and stained with something that might have been blood. Marcus checked for a pulse and found one, though it was weak and irregular. Her breathing was shallow. Whatever had happened to her ship, she was in bad shape. "This is Alpha. I've found the pilot. She's alive but unconscious. I'm going to try to stabilize life support first, then work on getting her to medical." Marcus began his assessment of the ship's systems. Zephyrian technology was unlike anything he'd worked with before. Where human ships used discrete components connected by cables and conduits, this vessel seemed to integrate everything into the hull itself. Power flowed through crystalline matrices embedded in the walls, and control systems responded to touch rather than mechanical inputs. But damage was damage, regardless of the technology. Whatever had hit the ship had overloaded the primary power grid and fried half the life support systems. The air recyclers were running at 30% efficiency, the gravity generators were fluctuating, and the heating system had failed completely. Marcus pulled out his scanner and began mapping the ship's power distribution network. It was incredibly sophisticated, far more advanced than human technology. But sophistication meant complexity, and complexity meant more things that could go wrong. The main problem was obvious once he traced the power flows. A feedback surge had blown the primary regulation matrix, causing cascading failures throughout the ship. The backup systems were trying to compensate, but they weren't designed to handle the load. "Okay, girl," Marcus muttered to the unconscious pilot. "Let's see if human engineering can save Zephyrian technology." The first challenge was understanding how to interface with the ship's repair systems. Everything was designed for Zephyrian physiology: touch panels that required specific nerve impulses, tools that responded to bioelectric fields. Marcus had to improvise, using his multimeter to trace electrical patterns and his plasma welder to bypass damaged circuits. He started with life support, rerouting power from non-essential systems to boost the air recyclers. It was delicate work: too much power and he'd fry the remaining functional components, too little and the pilot would suffocate before he could get her to the station. Hours passed as Marcus worked. He had to crawl through maintenance shafts barely wide enough for his shoulders, splicing connections and building jury-rigged bridges around damaged components. The Zephyrian ship's self-repair systems kept trying to reject his modifications, treating them as foreign intrusions. "Come on," he growled, wrestling with a particularly stubborn power coupling. "I'm trying to help here." Gradually, his persistence paid off. The air recyclers hummed back to life, pushing the oxygen levels up to safe ranges. The gravity stabilized, and emergency heating kicked in. The ship was still badly damaged, but it was no longer a death trap. Marcus returned to the bridge to check on the pilot. Her color looked better, and her breathing had deepened. As he knelt beside her, her large eyes fluttered open. She looked confused at first, then alarmed when she saw him. She tried to sit up quickly but winced and fell back. "Easy," Marcus said, holding up his hands. "I'm here to help. My name's Marcus. I'm an engineer from the station." She studied him with those large, intelligent eyes. When she spoke, her voice was melodious despite her obvious pain. "You are human?" "Yes. Your ship was in distress. I've stabilized life support, but you need medical attention, and your ship needs major repairs." She tried to sit up again, more carefully this time. "My name is Liara. How did your people do not understand our technology?" Marcus shrugged. "Engineering is engineering. Your ship is more advanced than what I usually work with, but the basic principles are the same. Power has to flow, systems need regulation, and when something breaks, you find a way to fix it." Liara looked around the bridge, noting the steady lights and stable displays. "You have restored primary functions? How long was I unconscious?" "About 6 hours. What happened to you?" "Those scorch marks on your hull look like weapons damage." Liara's expression darkened. "Pirates. They disabled my ship and were preparing to board when their own ship experienced a malfunction. They fled, leaving me adrift." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Lucky break." "Indeed." Her tone suggested there was more to the story, but she didn't elaborate. "Can you walk? I'd like to get you to the station's medical bay. Your ship is stable for now, but it's going to need extensive repairs." Liara nodded and tried to stand. She swayed slightly, and Marcus moved to support her. She was taller than him by several inches, and, despite her delicate appearance, she felt surprisingly strong. "Thank you," she said softly. "I am grateful for your assistance." They made their way to the airlock together. Marcus helped her into the repair pod, noting how she seemed fascinated by the simple, functional human design after her own ship's elegant complexity. During the short trip back to the station, Liara was quiet, studying Marcus with curious eyes. Finally, she spoke. "I have heard stories about your people. They say humans can repair anything, that you see solutions where others see only problems. I thought these were exaggerations." Marcus smiled. "Maybe we're just too stubborn to admit when something can't be fixed. Plus, we've had to learn to make do with whatever we can find. Human space is pretty rough around the edges. Yet you risked your safety to help a stranger from a species you have never encountered. That's what engineers do. We fix things. People, machines, situations, whatever needs fixing." The station's medical bay was staffed by Dr. Yeneth, a Corthinian with 6 arms and the best bedside manner of anyone Marcus had ever met. She quickly took charge of Liara's care while Marcus went to file his report. Greg was waiting for him in the supervisor's office, along with Station Commander Voss, a grizzled human veteran who ran the facility with military efficiency.
"Good work out there, Chen," Voss said. "The Zephyrian government has already contacted us. Apparently, your passenger is someone important." "How important?"
"Important enough that they're sending a diplomatic ship to collect her. They've also authorized us to fully repair her vessel at their expense."
Greg's translator buzzed.
"That ship is worth more than this entire station. The repair job will be substantial."
Marcus nodded. "I'll need help. Zephyrian technology is incredibly advanced. It's going to take time to understand how everything integrates."
"You'll have whatever resources you need," Voss assured him. This could be the start of a very profitable relationship with the Zephyrian Confederation. Over the next few days, Marcus divided his time between studying Liara's ship and checking on her recovery. Dr. Yeneth had treated her for severe exhaustion, dehydration, and some kind of neural disruption that had caused her unconsciousness. She was recovering well but would need several more days of observation. The ship itself was a marvel of engineering. As Marcus delved deeper into its systems, he began to understand why Zephyrian vessels were considered the pinnacle of spacefaring technology. Everything was interconnected, self-monitoring, and capable of adaptive responses to changing conditions.
But that sophistication came with a price.
The more he learned about the ship's design, the more he realized how devastating the damage really was. The pirates' attack had caused more than just a power surge, it had corrupted the ship's central processing matrix, the quantum core that coordinated all its systems. Human ships used separate computers for different functions: navigation, life support, weapons, communications. If one failed, the others could still operate. But Zephyrian ships used a single, incredibly sophisticated AI that managed everything. When it was damaged, the entire ship became crippled. Marcus was deep in the ship's core chamber, trying to map the damage to the processing matrix, when he heard footsteps behind him. He turned to see Liara standing in the doorway, looking much healthier than when he'd first found her.
"Dr. Yeneth cleared you for duty?" he asked.
She was reluctant, but I convinced her I was recovered. Liara stepped into the chamber, her eyes wide as she took in the exposed systems. "I did not realize the damage was so extensive."
Marcus wiped his hands on a rag. "Your ship's AI is pretty badly hurt. I've managed to isolate the damaged sections, but repairing them is going to be tricky. The quantum matrices don't respond well to conventional tools."
Liara moved to one of the exposed panels, her fingers dancing over the crystalline structures with practiced ease. "You have done remarkable work. These bypass connections should not be possible with primitive tools, yet they function perfectly."
"Primitive?" Marcus grinned. "Hey, human tech might not be fancy, but it gets the job done. I did not mean to insult your technology. It is simply different.
Direct where ours is elegant, simple where ours is complex."
She paused. "Perhaps there is wisdom in that simplicity."
They worked together for several hours, Liara guiding Marcus through the more delicate aspects of Zephyrian technology while he showed her creative solutions using human techniques.
Despite their different approaches, they made good progress.
"You learn quickly," Liara observed as Marcus successfully repaired a damaged subsystem. "Most species require years of training to work with our technology."
"I had a good teacher."
"Plus, once you understand the underlying principles, the details start to make sense." As they worked, Marcus found himself enjoying Liara's company more and more. She was intelligent, patient, and surprisingly interested in human engineering methods. When he showed her how to use a plasma welder to fuse damaged circuits, she picked it up immediately. "Your people must be natural engineers," she said, examining a particularly elegant repair Marcus had made to a power distribution node.
"Not all of us. But humans have always been good at making do with what we have."
"When you're stuck in a broken ship 100 light-years from the nearest port, you learn to get creative."
"Is that why you became an engineer? The challenge of repairing the impossible?" Marcus considered the question. "Partly. But mostly it's about helping people. When someone's ship breaks down, they're not just stuck, they're afraid. Fixing their ship means giving them hope." Liara was quiet for a long moment.
"When I awoke to find you working on my ship, I felt something I had not experienced in many years."
"What was that?" "Safety. Your presence made me feel safe.
Something in her tone made Marcus look up from the component he was adjusting. There was an intensity in her gaze that made his heart skip a beat.
Liara.
Before he could finish the thought, an alarm began blaring throughout the ship.
Emergency lights flashed, and the ship's communication system crackled to life. All personnel, return to the station immediately.
We have multiple ships approaching.
Unknown configuration, probably hostile.
Marcus and Liara exchanged glances. Through the ship's viewports, they could see several dark shapes moving against the stars, closing fast on the station.
Pirates? Marcus asked. Liara's expression hardened. The same ones who attacked me.
They must have tracked my ship here. The stakes had just gotten much higher. The station's main corridor buzzed with activity as Marcus and Liara rushed toward the command center. Emergency lights cast harsh shadows on the walls, and the intercom crackled with urgent reports from various departments. Station personnel moved with practiced efficiency, but Marcus could see the worry in their faces. Commander Voss stood at the central display, his weathered features grim as he watched the approaching ships.
The tactical screen showed 5 vessels in a loose formation, their profiles matching no known civilian designs. How long until they reach us?
Marcus asked, joining the group around the display.
18 minutes, Voss replied without looking away from the screen.
And, before you ask, no, we can't outrun them.
This is a maintenance station, not a warship.
Liara stepped forward, studying the ship configurations.
Those are definitely Corvan raiders.
The lead ship is a heavy assault cruiser, the others are boarding vessels.
You know these people? They are the ones who attacked me 3 days ago.
Their leader is called Thex Corvan, a former military officer turned pirate. He has been raiding merchant vessels along the frontier for 2 years. Voss turned to face her.
What do they want with you specifically?
Liara hesitated.
I carry certain information that would be valuable to criminal organizations. Data about Zephyrian trade routes, defense protocols, diplomatic codes. Marcus felt his stomach drop. You're a spy. I am a diplomatic courier.
The information I carry is not military secrets, but it would allow criminals to target our merchant fleets and diplomatic missions.
Same difference to pirates, Voss muttered. They get that data, and they can hit targets all across Zephyrian space.
The tactical display updated, showing the enemy ships had increased speed.
14 minutes now. What are our defensive options? Marcus asked.
Voss laughed bitterly. We've got a few point defense guns, some mining charges, and about 40 security officers with small arms.
Against 5 military-grade ships? We might as well throw rocks at them. Could we evacuate? Not enough time. Even if we started loading the emergency pods now, we couldn't get everyone out before they arrive. And they just shoot down anyone trying to escape.
Marcus ran a hand through his hair, thinking furiously.
There had to be a solution.
There was always a solution.
What about Liara's ship? Could we use it somehow? Liara shook her head.
The weapon systems are offline, and even if they were functional, 1 ship against 5 would be suicide.
I wasn't thinking about fighting. Marcus turned to the commander. Sir, how much power does the station's main reactor produce? Voss frowned. About 12 terawatts at full output. Why? And the structural integrity field generators? Standard industrial models.
They keep the station from tearing itself apart when large ships dock.
Again, why? Marcus was already moving toward the door. I need to get to the engineering section. Liara, can your ship's communication systems reach Zephyrian space?
Yes, but the quantum relay would take hours to establish a connection.
We do not have that much time. We don't need to send a message. We need to send a signal. Liara followed him as he headed for the lift. I do not understand.
Trust me. And bring your ship's technical manuals.
All of them. The engineering section was controlled chaos.
The human and alien technicians were trying to implement emergency protocols while preparing for possible boarding actions. Chief Engineer Kowalski, a stocky woman with grease-stained coveralls, looked up as Marcus burst in.
Shun. What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be heading for a shelter?
I need to modify the station's structural field generators.
How quickly can we reroute the main reactor's output? Kowalski stared at him. Have you lost your mind?
The field generators aren't designed to handle that kind of power.
You'd overload them in seconds. Not if we modify the resonance frequency and use harmonic amplification.
Marcus was already pulling up the station's technical schematics on a workstation.
Look, if we can tune the fields to match a specific quantum signature. You're talking nonsense, Chen.
Liara stepped forward, her eyes wide as she understood Marcus's plan.
No, he is not. You intend to create a quantum beacon. Exactly.
Zephyrian ships use quantum entanglement for instantaneous communication across interstellar distances.
If we can generate the right kind of signal,
we can alert the Zephyrian fleet without waiting for traditional communications, Liara finished. But, the power requirements would be enormous, and the field generators would need to be precisely calibrated.
Kowalski looked between them.
Even if this crazy plan could work, we've got 12 minutes before those pirates arrive.
You can't rewire the entire station's power grid in 12 minutes. Marcus grinned. Watch me. What followed was the most intense engineering challenge of Marcus's career.
Working with Liara and a team of increasingly frantic technicians, he began rerouting power conduits and modifying field generators throughout the station. The work required a combination of human ingenuity and Zephyrian knowledge. Marcus handled the crude but effective power modifications, while Liara calculated the precise quantum frequencies needed to create a coherent signal. Field Generator 3 is ready, reported one technician.
Generator 7 is showing stress fractures, called another.
Ignore it, Marcus shouted over the noise of sparking equipment.
It only needs to hold for 30 seconds. 8 minutes.
Marcus, the harmonic resonance is unstable, Liara warned, monitoring the quantum calculations on her portable device.
If the frequency drifts by even 0.01%, the signal will collapse. Can you compensate manually?
Perhaps, but I would need to interface directly with the field generators.
7 minutes. The main power coupling is overheating, Kowalski reported. We're pushing way beyond design limits.
Marcus wiped sweat from his eyes.
How long can it hold? Maybe 3 minutes at this power level. 6 minutes.
Marcus made a decision that violated every safety protocol he'd ever learned.
Bring the reactor to full overload. 120% output. Marcus, that's insane. The containment field could collapse. If we don't send this signal, we're all dead anyway. Do it. The station shuddered as the reactor strained beyond its design limits. Emergency alarms wailed, and several non-essential systems shut down automatically to prevent catastrophic failure. 5 minutes.
Field generators are coming online, Liara reported.
Quantum matrix is stabilizing, resonance frequency locked.
Power at 115% and climbing, Kowalski called out.
4 minutes.
The tactical display in the corner showed the pirate ships had reached the station's outer sensor perimeter. They would be in weapon range in 3 minutes.
Quantum beacon is active, Liara announced. Signal strength is adequate. The message is transmitting. How long before the Zephyrian fleet receives it?
The signal is instantaneous, but response time depends on their location and readiness status.
Minimum 15 minutes. 3 minutes.
Marcus felt his heart sink. Even if the Zephyrian fleet responded immediately, they wouldn't arrive in time to prevent the pirates from boarding the station.
Power coupling failure in Section 7, someone shouted. Containment field is fluctuating, added another voice. 2 minutes.
The lights throughout the engineering section flickered as the station's power grid struggled with the massive overload. Marcus could smell burning insulation and overheated electronics. That's it, Kowalski declared. I'm shutting down the reactor before it goes critical.
No. Liara grabbed her arm. The signal needs 30 more seconds to complete the transmission protocol. 1 minute. The pirate ships appeared on the main screen, their dark hulls bristling with weapons. The lead vessel was massive, at least twice the size of anything the station could normally handle. Unknown station, this is Captain Thex Corvin of the Crimson Blade. You are harboring a Zephyrian fugitive. Surrender her immediately, and we might let some of you live.
Commander Voss picked up the communication handset.
This is a neutral facility under consortium protection. You have no authority here. Corvin's laugh was transmitted across all frequencies. I am my own authority. You have 60 seconds to comply before we start shooting. 30 seconds.
Marcus watched the quantum field readings on Liara's device, willing them to remain stable just a little longer.
The frequencies were fluctuating wildly as the overloaded generators struggled to maintain coherence. 20 seconds. Reactor containment at critical levels, Kowalski warned. We need to shut down now. 10 more seconds, Liara pleaded. 15 seconds.
On the main screen, the pirate ships spread out into attack formation.
Weapon ports opened along their hulls, revealing particle cannons and missile launchers. 10 seconds. Signal transmission complete, Liara announced. Shut it down. Marcus ordered. Kowalski's hands flew over the reactor controls, gradually reducing power output and allowing the overloaded systems to cool. The station's emergency lighting switched to backup power as non-essential systems came back online. Well, Voss said grimly, now we wait and see if anyone heard us.
The communication panel crackled to life again.
Your time is up, station. Prepare to be boarded. The first missile struck the station's outer hull with a tremendous impact that sent everyone staggering.
Emergency bulkheads sealed automatically as atmosphere rushed out through the breach.
They're targeting non-critical sections, the tactical officer reported.
They want the station intact.
Another missile hit, this one closer to the docking bays.
The pirates were systematically weakening the station's defenses while avoiding anything that might damage their prize. Boarding pods launching, the officer continued.
3 ships remaining on overwatch, 2 moving in for docking.
Marcus grabbed a plasma cutter from his toolkit. It wasn't much of a weapon, but it was better than nothing. Around the engineering section, other personnel were arming themselves with whatever tools or equipment they could find. Marcus, Liara said softly, placing a hand on his arm.
I want you to know, what you did today was extraordinary. You risked everything to save people you barely know. It's not over yet.
The cavalry might still show up. She smiled sadly.
Even if they do not, you gave us hope. That is more than anyone else could have done.
The station shook again as the pirate ships made contact with the docking bays. Through the internal communication system, they could hear the sounds of fighting as security teams engaged the boarding parties. They're through the main airlock, someone reported over the comms. Security teams are falling back to secondary positions. Marcus checked the quantum communicator again, hoping to see some sign that help was coming. The device showed only empty space around the station. How long would it take the Zephyrian fleet to get here, he asked.
From the nearest patrol station? Perhaps 20 minutes at maximum velocity. 20 minutes. They'd be lucky to hold out for 5. The fighting grew closer, the sound of weapons fire echoing through the station's corridors. Emergency lighting cast everything in harsh red tones, and the acrid smell of burned electronics filled the air. They're in Section 12, Voss reported over the comm. All personnel fall back to final defensive positions. Marcus looked around the engineering section.
There were maybe 15 people here, mostly technicians with no combat training. If the pirates broke through the main defenses, this group wouldn't stand a chance. There's another option, Marcus said suddenly.
What? Liara's ship. It's still in the repair bay, isn't it? Liara nodded. Yes, but, as I said, the weapons are offline. I'm not thinking about weapons. I'm thinking about getting you out of here. I will not abandon these people. You're what the pirates want.
If you're not here, maybe they'll give up and leave.
Or maybe they'll kill everyone out of spite, Voss interjected over the comm. These aren't reasonable people, Chen.
The sound of fighting was very close now. Through the engineering section's armored windows, they could see muzzle flashes in the corridor beyond.
Security teams have been overwhelmed, Voss reported. Pirates are moving toward the command center and engineering. Estimate 3 minutes until they reach you. Marcus made a decision. Liara, can your ship fly? The repairs you made should allow basic maneuvering, but the quantum matrix is still unstable. Good enough. We're getting out of here. Marcus, I told you, not just you. Everyone. Your ship is big enough to carry the whole engineering crew, right? Liara's eyes widened. It might be possible. But the ship was not designed for so many passengers. Design specs are for engineers who give up too easily. Kowalski, how many people do we have here? 17, including you two. Liara's ship can handle that, can't it? The life support systems could manage 17 people for a short time, Liara admitted. But getting to the repair bay would require passing through sections the pirates already control. Marcus grinned. Then, we don't go through those sections. We go around them. He pulled up a station schematic and traced a route through the maintenance tunnels and service corridors that connected different sections of the facility. These passages are too small for people in combat armor, he explained. Pirates won't expect us to use them because most species can't fit. But humans are pretty good at crawling through tight spaces. Kowalski studied the route. That's 1,500 meters through tunnels barely wide enough for one person. It'll take at least 20 minutes. Then, we better get started. The sound of cutting tools echoed from the main entrance to engineering. The pirates had reached the blast doors and were working to break through. Everyone grab emergency supplies and follow me, Marcus ordered. Stay quiet, stay low, and try not to think about how crazy this is. As the group began filing into the maintenance access tunnel, Marcus took one last look at the engineering section he'd spent so many months working in. Somewhere beyond those blast doors, heavily armed pirates were about to break through and find nothing but empty workstations. He hoped they'd be very disappointed. The maintenance tunnel was even tighter than Marcus had expected. The passage was designed for automated repair drones, not human-sized beings. Every few meters, they had to navigate around junction boxes, power couplings, or life support equipment. Behind them, the sound of the blast door being breached echoed through the tunnel's acoustic pickups. Angry voices grew louder as the pirates discovered their quarry had escaped. They're searching the adjacent sections, Liara whispered from behind Marcus. It will not take them long to discover the maintenance accesses. Then, we better move faster. The tunnel seemed to stretch forever. Marcus's knees and elbows were scraped raw from crawling across metal grating, and his shoulders ached from squeezing through spaces barely wide enough for his frame. Behind him, he could hear the labored breathing of the others as they struggled through the cramped passage. After what felt like hours but was probably only 15 minutes, Marcus reached a junction that opened into a larger service corridor. He crawled out and helped the others emerge from the tunnel. Where are we? Kowalski asked, looking around at the unfamiliar surroundings. Marcus checked the station schematic on his portable device. Service level 12, about 200 meters from the repair bay. We're close. They moved through the corridors as quietly as possible, using hand signals to communicate. The sounds of fighting had died down, which either meant the pirates had secured the station or the remaining security forces had been eliminated. The repair bay's blast doors were sealed, but Marcus's engineering codes still worked. The massive portal slid open silently, revealing Liara's ship sitting in the center of the bay like a sculpture made of flowing metal. Beautiful ship, Kowalski whispered. It is about to become our lifeboat, Liara replied, leading them toward the airlock. As they boarded, Marcus couldn't help but notice how the ship seemed to respond to Liara's presence. Lights came on automatically, and the airlock cycled without any apparent input from her. The ship recognizes you, he observed. Zephyrian vessels are bonded to their pilots. It knows I am in distress and is preparing to assist. The interior of the ship could barely accommodate 17 people, but everyone managed to find space in the main cabin and corridor. Liara took her position at the pilot's console while Marcus accessed the engineering station. Life support is stable, he reported. Your repairs are holding. Propulsion systems responding, Liara added. Though I would not recommend any sudden maneuvers. The repair bay's outer doors began to open, revealing the starfield beyond. But, as they prepared to launch, new contacts appeared on the ship's sensors. 3 more pirate vessels had arrived and were taking positions around the station. They anticipated an escape attempt, Liara said grimly. We are surrounded. Marcus studied the tactical display. The new ships were smaller than the main assault group but still heavily armed. There was no way Liara's damaged vessel could outrun or outfight them. Any ideas? He asked. Before Liara could respond, the ship's communication system activated.
But, instead of a pirate transmission, they heard a voice speaking in the melodious tones of the Zephyrian language. Liara's face lit up with hope as she replied in the same language. The conversation continued for several seconds before she turned to Marcus with tears in her eyes. The third fleet has arrived. 8 ships, including 2 heavy cruisers. On the tactical display, new contacts appeared at the edge of sensor range. Large, powerful vessels moving with the purposeful precision of military formations. "This is Fleet Captain Xeris of the Zephyrian Confederacy," a new voice announced in accented standard. "Unknown vessels, you are engaged in illegal acts against a diplomatic courier. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The pirate response was predictable. "This is our prize, Zephyrian. We claimed it first. You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawal. After that, we will consider your presence an act of war." Marcus watched the tactical display as the pirate ships tried to decide between flight and fight. The smart choice would be to run 8 Zephyrian military vessels against 8 pirates was no contest. But pirates weren't always smart. The lead pirate ship opened fire on the nearest Zephyrian cruiser, its particle beams splashing harmlessly against advanced shields. The response was immediate and devastating. The Zephyrian ships unleashed a coordinated barrage that reduced the pirate vessel to glowing debris in seconds. The remaining pirates got the message. They broke formation and scattered, jumping to hyperspace as quickly as their engines could manage. "This is Fleet Captain Xeris to Diplomatic Courier Liara. Are you unharmed?" "I am well, Captain. Thanks to the assistance of the humans aboard this station." "Understood. We are dispatching medical teams and repair crews. The Confederacy is grateful for your protection of our courier." As Zephyrian ships moved to secure the area, Marcus felt the tension finally leave his shoulders. They'd done it. Against all odds, they'd managed to save not only Liara but everyone on the station. But, looking at Liara's grateful expression, Marcus had a feeling their adventures were just beginning. The Zephyrian medical teams worked with efficient precision, treating the wounded and checking everyone for injuries or exposure to harmful radiation from the battle. Marcus found himself sitting in the station's newly restored medical bay, watching Dr. Yeneth coordinate with her alien counterparts as they tended to the injured security personnel. "Minor abrasions and exhaustion," the Zephyrian medic announced after scanning Marcus with a device that looked more like jewelry than medical equipment. "You should rest." "I'm fine," Marcus protested, but he had to admit he was exhausted. The adrenaline from the escape and battle was wearing off, leaving him feeling drained. Liara appeared at his side, looking much better than she had during their cramped journey through the maintenance tunnels. "The fleet medics are remarkably thorough. They insist on treating everyone who was exposed to the combat situation. How's everyone else?" "3 security officers have serious injuries, but they will recover." The pirates were more interested in capturing than killing. She paused. "Commander Voss wishes to speak with you." Marcus found the station commander in what remained of the command center. Half the displays were dark, and several workstations showed signs of weapons damage, but Voss looked surprisingly upbeat for someone whose facility had just been attacked by pirates. "Shun. Hell of a thing you did today. That quantum beacon idea saved all our lives." "It was a team effort, sir. And, honestly, I wasn't sure it would work. The Zephyrian fleet captain wants to meet with you personally. Seems they're very impressed with your improvisation." Before Marcus could respond, the command center's main display activated, showing the bridge of a Zephyrian warship. The figure on screen was clearly military, tall, dignified, with the bearing of someone accustomed to command. Unlike Liara's pale blue skin, his had a silver tint that seemed to shimmer under the ship's lighting. "I am Fleet Captain Xeris," the figure announced. "I understand we owe the safety of Courier Liara to your quick thinking and technical expertise." Marcus felt a bit uncomfortable with the formal attention. "I just did what any engineer would do, Captain." "Perhaps. But few engineers would have thought to convert a maintenance station into a quantum communications beacon. Our technical staff is most interested in your methods." Liara stepped into view of the camera. "Captain, Marcus and his team not only saved my life but evacuated 17 station personnel through maintenance tunnels while under fire. His ingenuity is remarkable." "Indeed. Mr. Chen, the Confederacy would like to formally express our gratitude."
Would you be willing to accompany Courier Liara to our nearest diplomatic facility? There are certain honors we would like to bestow, and our engineers would benefit from discussing your techniques. Marcus glanced at Liara, who smiled encouragingly. I suppose that would be all right. How long would this take? A few days at most. You would be returned to your station with full compensation for your time. Commander Voss nodded approvingly. Take the time off, Chen. The station's going to be in repair mode for at least a week anyway. And this kind of diplomatic contact could be very good for the consortium. 3 hours later, Marcus found himself aboard a Zephyrian transport vessel, watching the maintenance station shrink in the distance. The ship was unlike anything he'd ever experienced. The technology was so advanced it seemed more like magic than engineering. You seem troubled, Liara observed, taking a seat beside him in the ship's observation lounge. Not troubled, exactly. Just overwhelmed, I guess. This morning I was fixing a cargo hauler's engine. Now I'm on an alien ship heading to meet diplomats and receive honors I don't really deserve. You do not believe you deserve recognition for saving lives? Marcus shrugged. I was just doing my job. Any engineer would have tried to help. Liara studied him with those large, intelligent eyes. You truly believe that, do not you? That any human would have risked their life for strangers? Well, yeah. Wouldn't anyone? No, Marcus. They would not. What you did today required not just technical skill but courage, creativity, and compassion. These are not common qualities, even among humans. The ship's intercom announced they would be arriving at the diplomatic facility within the hour. Through the observation port, Marcus could see a massive structure materializing ahead of them, not a planet or space station, but something that seemed to blend both concepts. Welcome to Harmony Station, Liara said, following his gaze. It is one of our most important diplomatic facilities, where we conduct relations with dozens of species. The structure was beautiful in the same flowing, organic way as Liara's ship, but on an enormous scale. What looked like gardens and parks were visible through transparent sections, and ships from various species moved in graceful patterns around multiple docking areas. How many people live here? Perhaps 50,000 permanent residents, plus another 100,000 visitors at any given time. It is a city in space, dedicated to peaceful interaction between species. As their ship approached one of the docking bays, Marcus noticed several other vessels that looked distinctly human in design, angular, functional, built for purpose rather than beauty. Other humans? A few. Your people have begun establishing diplomatic relations with several species in this region. The Confederacy is very interested in expanding those relationships. The docking process was smooth and silent, handled entirely by automated systems that seemed to anticipate the ship's needs. As they disembarked, Marcus was struck by the diversity of beings moving through the facility. He recognized a few species from the frontier stations, but many others were completely unfamiliar. Their escort was a tall Zephyrian in formal robes who introduced himself as Diplomat Thuren. Mr. Chen, we are honored by your presence. If you would accompany me, there are several individuals who would like to meet with you. They moved through corridors that managed to feel both grand and intimate, with lighting that adjusted automatically to the comfort needs of different species. Marcus noticed that the environmental controls near him shifted to provide Earth-normal atmosphere and temperature. The station adapts to its occupants, Liara explained, noting his observation. It reads biological signatures and adjusts accordingly. Their first stop was a conference room where several Zephyrian officials waited, along with what appeared to be technical specialists. Marcus found himself answering detailed questions about his improvised quantum beacon, his modifications to Liara's ship, and his general approach to engineering problems. Most species require extensive training to work with our technology, one of the specialists noted. Yet you were able to interface human and Zephyrian systems with remarkable success. How do you explain this? Marcus thought about it. I guess it comes down to understanding the basic principles. Once you figure out what a system is trying to accomplish, you can usually find a way to make it work, even if it's not the original design. This pragmatic approach is unusual, another specialist observed. Most advanced species prefer elegant solutions that maintain system integrity. Sometimes elegant isn't fast enough. When someone's life is on the line, you use whatever works. The questions continued for over an hour, covering everything from human engineering philosophy to specific technical details.
Marcus found the discussion fascinating. The Zephyrian approach to technology was so different from human methods, yet they seemed genuinely interested in learning from his perspective.
Finally, Diplomat the Run called for a break. Mr. Chen, we have prepared quarters for you.
Tonight there will be a formal ceremony where the Confederacy will present you with our highest civilian honor for service to a diplomatic mission.
That's really not necessary.
It is both necessary and our pleasure, the Wren insisted. Your actions have likely prevented a significant deterioration in security along our frontier. The intelligence that Courier Liara carried would have enabled pirates to target our shipping for months. As they walked toward his quarters, Liara fell into step beside Marcus.
You handled their questions well.
Many humans become defensive when asked to explain their methods.
They're just trying to understand.
Besides, I learned as much from their questions as they did from my answers. His quarters were more luxury than Marcus had experienced in his entire life. The room seemed to adjust its configuration based on his preferences, and the view through the transparent wall showed the spectacular vista of ships and space beyond the station.
This is too much, he muttered, running his hand over furniture that seemed to be grown rather than built. A soft chime announced a visitor.
The door dilated to reveal Liara, now wearing robes similar to those of the diplomats but in deep blue that complemented her skin tone.
I wanted to check on your comfort before the ceremony. Is everything satisfactory?
More than satisfactory. I feel like I should be paying rent just to look at this place.
Liara smiled. You are our honored guest.
Nothing is too good for the human who saved my life and protected classified Confederacy information. She moved to the window, gazing out at the activity beyond.
Marcus, may I ask you something personal?
Sure.
Why do you work on frontier stations? With your skills, you could have any position in human space.
Corporate facilities, military contracts, even research positions. Marcus joined her at the window. I tried the corporate route for a while after I graduated. Spent 2 years working for Titan Engineering, designing components for luxury ships that cost more than some planets' annual budgets.
That sounds lucrative.
It was. But it was also pointless. I was solving engineering problems that didn't need solving, making things marginally better for people who already had more than they needed. So you chose the frontier. Out here, the work matters. When someone's ship breaks down, they're not just inconvenienced, they're stranded, scared, maybe dying.
Fixing their problem means something. Liara was quiet for a moment.
Among my people, there is great honor in choosing service over profit. But it is not a common choice.
Maybe your people are different from humans.
We've always had a few crazy ones willing to help strangers for no good reason. Perhaps that is why we are so interested in your species. In a galaxy where most civilizations focus on their own advancement, humans seem to reach out.
The ceremony that evening was unlike anything Marcus had ever experienced.
The main hall was filled with representatives from dozens of species, all there to witness what Diplomat the Wren described as an unprecedented honor for interspecies cooperation.
Marcus felt extremely out of place in his borrowed formal clothes, standing before an audience of beings whose casual attire was more elegant than anything he'd ever owned.
But, when Fleet Captain Xeris presented him with what they called the Star of Confederation Friendship, a crystal device that seemed to contain actual starlight, the applause was genuine and warm. Mr. Chen, Xeris announced to the assembly, exemplifies the finest qualities of his species: ingenuity, courage, and selfless service to others. The Confederacy is honored to call him friend. After the ceremony, there was a reception where Marcus found himself surrounded by curious beings asking questions about human culture, technology, and philosophy. He did his best to answer, though he had to admit he felt more like an accidental ambassador than an engineer.
You are handling this well, Liara observed during a brief lull in the conversations. Many humans become overwhelmed by so much attention from alien species. It's not the attention that's overwhelming. It's the realization that what I did really mattered to so many people. Actions often have consequences far beyond what we can see. The intelligence I was carrying concerns trade routes used by dozens of species. If pirates had obtained it, hundreds of ships might have been attacked over the coming months.
A new voice joined their conversation.
Courier Liara speaks truly.
They turned to see a human approaching, a woman in her 50s with the bearing of someone accustomed to command. She wore a uniform Marcus didn't recognize, though it had distinctly Terran styling.
Ambassador Sarah Chen, she introduced herself, extending a hand. No relation, despite the name. I'm the human diplomatic representative to this region. Pleased to meet you, Ambassador. I had no idea we had diplomatic missions this far out. We're expanding rapidly.
The frontier is becoming less of a frontier every year, and humanity needs a voice in the political developments out here. She glanced around at the diverse gathering.
Your actions today have given that voice significantly more credibility. I don't understand. Ambassador Chun smiled. Mr. Chen, you've just demonstrated to dozens of species that humans are willing to risk their lives to protect other species' interests.
That kind of reputation is worth more than a dozen trade agreements.
I wasn't trying to make a political statement. I was just trying to help. Which makes it even more powerful. Calculated gestures are forgotten quickly. Genuine acts of heroism become legends.
The reception continued for several hours, with Marcus finding himself in conversations that ranged from technical discussions about engineering to philosophical debates about interspecies cooperation. Despite his initial discomfort, he found himself enjoying the experience.
You seem surprised by the positive reception, Liara observed as the evening wound down. Honestly?
Yeah. I've spent most of my career working alone or with small teams.
This whole diplomatic thing is new to me. Perhaps it should not be.
You have a gift for bringing out the best in others, for finding solutions that serve everyone's interests.
As they walked back toward the quarters section of the station, Liara seemed to be building up to saying something. Finally, she stopped in one of the observation lounges. Marcus, I have been authorized to make you an offer. The Confederacy would like to establish a permanent human engineering exchange program. We would provide advanced technical training in exchange for insights into human problem-solving methods. That sounds like it could benefit both sides.
It would. But it would require someone to coordinate the program, someone who understands both human and Zephyrian approaches to technology.
She paused. Someone like you.
Marcus felt his heart skip.
Are you offering me a job? I am offering you an opportunity.
A chance to help bridge the gap between our peoples while working on engineering challenges that could benefit hundreds of worlds.
What would that involve?
Initially, you would work with our technical teams here at Harmony Station, learning our methods while teaching yours. Eventually, you might oversee exchange programs at multiple facilities, help design cooperative projects, even assist in first contact situations with new species. Marcus looked out at the stars beyond the observation port. It was an incredible opportunity, a chance to work with technology decades ahead of anything in human space, to help establish relationships that could benefit both species. But it would also mean leaving behind everything familiar, stepping into a world where he'd always be the outsider, the strange human among beings far more sophisticated than himself.
This is a lot to consider, he said finally.
Of course.
Take as much time as you need. The offer will remain open.
As they continued toward their quarters, Marcus found his mind racing with possibilities. The practical part of him saw the incredible learning opportunities, the chance to work on projects that could genuinely change the galaxy. But another part of him wondered if he was ready to become a permanent bridge between species, to represent humanity in situations he couldn't even imagine.
Liara, he said as they reached his door, can I ask you something? Certainly. This job offer, is it just because of what happened today, or is there more to it? She smiled.
What happened today confirmed what I suspected from the moment I saw your work on my ship.
You do not just solve problems, Marcus. You find ways to make things better for everyone involved. And, you think that's what this job would need? I think it is what the galaxy needs. Too many species see cooperation as weakness, sharing knowledge as loss of advantage. Humans seem to understand that helping others ultimately helps everyone.
After she left, Marcus sat in his luxurious quarters, staring out at the impossible vista of Harmony Station. Ships from dozens of species moved in graceful patterns, beings from countless worlds working together in peaceful cooperation. It was everything he'd never known he wanted, a chance to make a real difference on an interstellar scale. But it was also terrifying in its scope and implications.
Tomorrow, he would need to give Liara an answer. Tonight, he tried to imagine what his life might become if he said yes.
Marcus woke to the soft chime of his room's communication system. The automated voice spoke in perfect English, though he could hear the underlying musical quality that marked it as Zephyrian technology.
Good morning, Mr. Chen. Courier Liara requests your presence in conference room 7 at your convenience.
He'd barely slept, his mind cycling through the implications of the job offer. On one hand, it was an opportunity beyond anything he'd imagined. On the other, it meant committing to a life completely unlike anything he'd known. After a quick meal in his quarters, the food synthesizer had perfectly replicated his request for coffee and scrambled eggs. Marcus made his way through the station's corridors. Even this early in the station's day cycle, the passages were busy with beings from dozens of species going about their daily routines. Conference Room 7 turned out to be a smaller, more intimate space than where he'd met with the technical specialists the day before. Liara was waiting for him, along with a middle-aged human man in a naval uniform and an elderly Zephyrian female whose bearing suggested high rank. "Marcus, please join us," Liara said, gesturing to a chair that adjusted itself to human proportions as he approached.
"I am Admiral Vex," the Zephyrian woman announced. "I oversee the Confederacy's technical exchange programs." The human officer stood and extended his hand. "Captain James Rodriguez, Terran Space Navy. I'm here representing Earth's interests in this discussion."
Marcus shook his hand, feeling even more out of his depth. "I didn't realize this had escalated to admirals and Navy captains. What you did 2 days ago has attracted attention at very high levels," Rodriguez explained.
"Both our governments see potential for expanded cooperation." Admiral Vex activated a holographic display showing technical schematics that looked like a hybrid of human and Zephyrian designs.
"Mr. Chen, your improvised modifications to Courier Liara's ship have provided insights that our engineers find illuminating."
Marcus studied the schematics. "You're trying to integrate human and Zephyrian technology?" "We are exploring the possibility. Your approach to problem-solving suggests that human methods might complement our own in unexpected ways."
"The Admiralty is very interested in joint development projects," Rodriguez added. "Your techniques could help us build ships and systems that are more reliable and adaptable."
Liara leaned forward.
"Marcus, what we are proposing is not just a job. It is the chance to help create something entirely new, a synthesis of human ingenuity and Zephyrian sophistication."
Admiral Vex brought up new displays showing various space installations, ships, and research facilities.
"The position would begin here at Harmony Station, but eventually you would oversee programs across multiple systems. You would have resources and authority that few engineers ever experience."
"What exactly would I be expected to do?"
"Initially, you would work with joint human-Zephyrian teams on specific projects," Liara explained.
"We have identified several areas where human problem-solving approaches might break through limitations we have encountered."
"Such as?"
Admiral Vex manipulated the display to show a massive structure under construction in space. "This is a deep space research station designed to study exotic phenomena near the galactic core.
Our technology alone cannot solve the engineering challenges involved."
Rodriguez nodded approvingly. "The project requires the kind of creative solutions humans excel at."
"You'd be working with the best engineers from both species."
"And this is just the beginning," Liara added.
"We are planning similar collaborations in planetary engineering, deep space exploration, even first contact protocols." Marcus felt overwhelmed by the scope of what they were describing.
"I'm just a maintenance engineer.
I fix broken ships." "You saved 17 lives and prevented a major security breach using spare parts and determination," Admiral Vex corrected.
"Do not underestimate what that demonstrates about your capabilities."
"The real question," Rodriguez said, "is whether you're ready for a challenge that could shape relations between our species for generations." Marcus looked around at the three faces watching him expectantly. A week ago, his biggest decision had been which repair job to tackle first. Now they were asking him to help build the future of interspecies cooperation.
"Can I see some of the specific projects you're talking about?"
For the next 3 hours, they walked him through a series of engineering challenges that made his head spin. Fusion reactors that could adapt to different fuel sources, shield systems that could protect ships traveling through unstable space, communication arrays that could function across vast distances. Each project represented years of work by teams of specialists. The technology involved was decades ahead of anything in human space, yet the Zephyrian engineers had reached limitations that human approaches might help overcome. "This deep space sensor array," Marcus said, studying one particularly complex schematic.
"You're having problems with signal degradation over extreme distances?"
"Our quantum entanglement systems work perfectly under normal conditions," Admiral Vex acknowledged.
But the exotic radiation near the galactic core interferes with the quantum states. Marcus traced the signal pathways on the display. What if you used redundant conventional systems as backup? They'd be slower, but they might maintain coherence when the quantum channels fail. Liara exchanged glances with Admiral Vex.
Our engineers dismissed conventional backup systems as primitive.
Sometimes primitive is exactly what you need.
Human ships use redundant systems for everything critical because we learned that elegant solutions fail when you need them most.
This is exactly the kind of thinking we need, Rodriguez said with obvious satisfaction. Human engineers don't just solve problems, they anticipate failures.
The discussion continued through the afternoon, with Marcus finding himself increasingly excited by the challenges they were describing. These weren't just technical problems, they were puzzles that could determine whether entire civilizations could explore new regions of space or establish contact with unknown species.
I have one more thing to show you, Liara said as the formal presentations concluded.
She led him through a section of the station he hadn't seen before, to an observation deck that provided an unobstructed view of the construction project Admiral Vex had mentioned. The Deep Space Research Station was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the maintenance facility where Marcus worked.
It is beautiful, is it not? Liara said, watching his reaction to the graceful structure taking shape in space. It's incredible. How long has it been under construction?
3 years, with at least 2 more years of work remaining. But we have encountered problems that threaten the entire project. Marcus studied the construction more carefully. Even from this distance, he could see sections that looked incomplete or damaged.
The exotic radiation you mentioned? Among other things. The construction crews cannot work efficiently in such a hostile environment. Our automated systems fail regularly. Even our most advanced materials degrade faster than anticipated.
Sounds like you need someone who specializes in making things work under impossible conditions.
Liara smiled. Indeed.
Someone with experience maintaining equipment on frontier stations where replacement parts might be months away and conditions are never ideal. They stood in comfortable silence for several minutes, watching the construction crews work on the massive project. Marcus could see ships from several different species contributing to the effort, their varying technologies somehow coordinated into a unified construction effort.
Liara, can I ask you something personal?
Of course.
This job offer, is it really about my engineering skills, or is there something else?
She turned to face him directly.
What do you mean?
I mean, there have to be human engineers with more experience, better credentials, more advanced training.
Why me specifically? Liara was quiet for a long moment, choosing her words carefully.
2 days ago, when I awoke to find you working on my ship, I felt something I had not experienced in many years.
You mentioned that before. Safety.
Yes, but it was more than that. I felt trust. Complete trust in a stranger from a species I had never met.
She paused. That level of trust is not something that can be taught or trained. It comes from character. So this is about personality rather than technical ability? It is about both.
The projects we are planning will require not just engineering expertise but the ability to work with beings from many different species, each with their own perspectives and methods.
You have demonstrated that you can find common ground quickly.
Marcus thought about the emergency repair on her ship, how they'd worked together despite coming from completely different technological backgrounds. She was right, they'd fallen into an easy partnership almost immediately.
And there is something else, Liara continued.
My people value elegance and sophistication in our solutions.
Sometimes that prevents us from seeing simpler approaches that might be more effective. You think humans can help with that? I think you specifically can help with that.
You see possibilities where others see only obstacles.
A soft chime announced an incoming message.
Liara checked her communication device and smiled.
Captain Rodriguez would like to speak with you privately. He is in conference room 3.
Marcus found the captain reviewing data on a portable display. As Marcus entered, Rodriguez looked up with the expression of someone who had just received very good news.
Excellent timing, Chen. I just got word from Earth Command. They're extremely interested in this exchange program.
Oh? Interested enough to offer you a commission in the Space Navy if you accept the position.
Lieutenant Commander, with authority to negotiate joint projects on behalf of Earth. Marcus stared at him. You're offering me a military rank? The work you'd be doing would essentially be diplomatic in nature.
The commission would give you the authority to make binding agreements and access to classified information from both sides.
I've never been in the military.
The technical training can be handled later. Right now, we need someone with your combination of skills and demonstrated ability to work with alien species.
Rodriguez leaned back in his chair. Shen, I'm going to be frank with you.
First contact with the Zephyrians has been challenging. They're polite but distant, willing to trade but not to share technology.
Your actions 2 days ago opened doors that our professional diplomats couldn't budge. I don't understand. They respect you. More than that, they trust you.
That kind of relationship takes years to build through normal diplomatic channels.
You did it in a few hours by simply being yourself.
Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders.
What if I'm not cut out for this? What if I make mistakes that damage relations between our species?
Then, you'll learn from them and do better next time.
That's what humans do. Rodriguez smiled.
Besides, you won't be working alone. You'll have support from both governments and access to the best advisors we can provide. The conversation continued for another hour, with Rodriguez outlining the resources and support that would be available. By the time Marcus left the conference room, his head was spinning with possibilities and responsibilities. He found Liara waiting for him in the same observation lounge where they'd talked the night before. The view of Harmony Station's activity had changed, different ships, different species going about their business in the eternal dance of interstellar civilization. You spoke with Captain Rodriguez, she observed.
Yeah.
This whole thing keeps getting bigger and more complicated.
Are you having second thoughts? Marcus considered the question seriously. I keep thinking about the maintenance station. Commander Voss and the crew, the routine work of keeping ships running. It's a good life, even if it's not glamorous. But it's also limited.
I can fix ships for the next 30 years and help maybe a few thousand people. This could affect millions.
That is true.
But it is also true that you would be leaving behind everything familiar, taking on responsibilities that no human has ever faced.
What would you do? In my position? Liara smiled. I think you already know what I would do.
I am here, after all, far from my home, carrying messages between worlds and species.
Because it's important. Because it is necessary.
My people and yours, all the species represented on this station, we are stronger together than apart. But that cooperation requires trust, and trust requires people willing to build bridges. They sat in comfortable silence for several minutes, watching the flow of ships and activity beyond the transparent walls. Finally, Marcus made his decision.
When do I start? Liara's face lit up with genuine joy. Truly? You accept? I accept. Though I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. That makes two of us. This program has never been attempted before. We will all be learning as we go.
The next few hours were a whirlwind of paperwork, briefings, and introductions. Marcus found himself signing agreements in 3 different languages, receiving security clearances he didn't fully understand, and accepting responsibilities that would have terrified him a week ago. By evening, he was officially Lieutenant Commander Marcus Chen of the Terran Space Navy, assigned to the Zephyrian Confederacy Technical Exchange Program. His new quarters were larger than his old ones, with access to technical databases that contained more information than he could absorb in a lifetime.
How does it feel?
Liara asked, finding him studying a schematic of the Deep Space Research Station that would be his first major project.
Terrifying. Exciting. Overwhelming. He looked up from the display. Like the biggest challenge I've ever faced. You will not face it alone. The teams we are assembling include the best engineers from both our species. Including you?
I will be your liaison with the Confederacy government and your guide to Zephyrian technology and culture.
Marcus smiled. So we'll be working together.
It appears we make a good team. Looking back at the schematic, Marcus could see problems that would need human solutions and possibilities that would require Zephyrian sophistication. It was going to be the project of a lifetime, pushing both species to achieve things neither could accomplish alone.
When do we start? Tomorrow, we meet with the project teams. Next week, we travel to the construction site. Liara paused. Marcus, are you certain about this decision?
Once we begin, there will be no going back to your simple life repairing cargo haulers.
Marcus thought about the question seriously.
A week ago, his biggest concern had been fixing a broken engine.
Now he was about to help build the future of interspecies cooperation. You know what convinced me?
What? 2 days ago, when we were crawling through those maintenance tunnels, you asked me why I work on frontier stations. I told you it was because the work matters, because fixing someone's problem means something.
I remember. This is the same thing, just on a bigger scale.
Instead of fixing one ship, we're trying to fix the gaps between entire civilizations.
Liara smiled. I think you understand the work better than you realize.
As they looked out at the stars beyond Harmony Station, Marcus felt a sense of purpose unlike anything he'd ever experienced.
He was no longer just an engineer who fixed broken things. He was a bridge builder, helping to connect species across the galaxy.
It was exactly the kind of impossible challenge that humans were made for.
6 months later, the Deep Space Research Station achieved its first successful test of the hybrid human-Zephyrian systems.
The breakthrough came from combining Zephyrian quantum processing with human redundancy protocols, creating a system that was both elegant and unbreakable. Marcus stood in the station's command center, watching displays that showed successful data collection from the galactic core, information that would revolutionize understanding of cosmic phenomena. Around him, engineers from a dozen different species worked together with an efficiency that had seemed impossible just months before. The success rate is 97%, reported Dr. Carries, the Zephyrian lead scientist.
Far exceeding our projections.
The redundant backup systems are performing exactly as Marcus predicted, added Chief Engineer Yamamoto, one of the human team members. Even when the primary quantum channels fail, we maintain full functionality. Liara appeared at Marcus's side, her face showing the satisfaction of a job well done.
The Confederacy Council is extremely pleased with the results.
They have approved funding for 3 additional joint projects. And Earth Command wants to expand the exchange program to include other species, Marcus added.
Apparently, our success here has attracted attention from the Corthinian Trade Federation and the Vorthak Engineering Collective.
Looking around at the diverse team working together, Marcus realized that his decision to leave the maintenance station had been the right one. He was still fixing broken things, but now those things were the barriers between species, the limitations that kept civilizations apart. It was the most rewarding work he'd ever done, and it was just the beginning. The galaxy was full of impossible challenges waiting for someone stubborn enough to find solutions. Marcus Chen had found his true calling as the bridge between worlds, and he couldn't have been happier with his choice.